One afternoon, I found her sitting at a table by herself, dressed in her street clothes. This was the first time I had seen her without her white uniform. The green dress clung to her body. It was cut low in the front, and I could see the roundness of her breasts. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel my blood rushing to my head. Desire for this woman had become an obsession. I wanted to possess her completely. She stared up at me, and I knew she could see the anxiety in my eyes. Without speaking, she slipped out of her chair and stood in front of me. We were the same height, but the heels she wore caused her to tower above me. Taking my hand, she led me from the restaurant. The other waitress stared after us curiously. Fatima waved down a cab. When we got in, I settled down on the seat beside her. As the cab jumped in and out of traffic on its way across town, her hand found mine on the seat, and she placed it between her legs. I was in seventh heaven, and until this day, I cannot recall the location of the apartment she took me to. We entered the apartment and stopped inside the door. Somehow she managed to close the door and slip into my arms in the same smooth motion. I could feel her tongue slipping around inside my mouth. It felt like a hot flaming spear. Everywhere it touched, it aroused erotic emotions. I've been kissed by girls many times, but nothing like this. Her mouth was hot. Her breath felt like a hot wind blowing upon my neck. I could feel her body radiating heat through her dress. She slipped out of my embrace, and pulling me by the arm, led me into her bedroom. We both began to remove our clothes quickly. Fatima finished undressing first. She helped me remove my pants and lightly shoved me back upon the bed. The room was well furnished. The walls had been lately painted a shocking pink, while the dresser and matching pieces were snow white. It was a showroom, displaying the feminine traits of its occupant. I could feel her kissing me tenderly on the legs and thigh. She removed my silk shorts, and I heard her catch her breath in surprise. I smiled, because I knew what had given her a shock. I was aware that nature had been exceptionally nice to me in a certain department. Suddenly, I could feel her hot breath on my privates, and I began to tingle all over. The boys and I had discussed blowjobs before, and while I'd spoken on the subject like an expert, this was my first experience. Wow! It was like standing up in bed while still lying down. My head and my heels were the only things touching the bed. I felt like screaming, but held back in anticipation. At the final moment, I grabbed her head and pushed against it and held it to me at the same time. Later, I flopped back on the bed, exhausted. Fatima got up and went into the bathroom. After washing up, she returned to the bedroom and asked, "Would you care for a drink?" I nodded in agreement and watched the sway of her hips as she walked into the living room. In a few moments, she returned carrying 2 water glasses filled to the brim. I tasted the drink she had given me. It was whiskey, mixed with very little soda. I had drunk wine before, but never any strong spirits, because the burning stuff would cause tears to spring into my eyes. I started to set the drink down on the table beside the bed. Fatima caught my hand and pushed the drink towards me. "Be a big boy, honey. I ain't standing for no shit about you not getting high with me," she said huskily. I didn't want her to know I hadn't drunk anything stronger than wine, so I turned up the glass and drained it. It was so strong it almost took my breath. Somehow, I managed to hold the drink down. Fatima emptied her glass, then lay beside me, and we kissed for a while. Suddenly, she got back up and went to refill the glasses. I really didn't want another drink, but my not wanting to reveal my inexperience caused me to try to match drinks with her. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Fatima began to shake out some white powder onto a magazine. I watched her in dread. I had never snorted drugs before, but I knew them when I saw them. Removing a book of matches from the table, she tore off a strip from the back cover. Taking the strip and putting a crimp in the middle, she used it like a shovel to scoop up some of the white drug. Holding one nostril, she put the powder into the other one and snorted. The powder disappeared as if by magic. She refilled the quill and pushed it towards me. I turned my head sideways and sat up on the side of the bed. "Don't be afraid, honey. It's only a little cocaine," she whispered, her laughter following, low and husky. I trembled with an unknown fear. I could hear Jessie's warning roar in my head. Don't ever take any drug other than reefer. The small amount Fatima had taken didn't seem to disturb her much, so I tried a little bit. The more I snorted, the higher I became. Her hands, roaming over my body, aroused sensual sensations I'd never experienced. Everywhere she touched became sensitive. My nerves became raw, and they tingled with unheard-of pleasures. I lay back upon the bed as my keen sensibilities blazed with passion. I felt one of her legs rest upon my chest. In moments, I became aware of my neck being caught in a lengthwise grip between her thighs. She began to thrust her hips with a steady force until the continuous pressure produced a light discharge that seemed to spray my face. Anger and hate twisted inside my gut as the notion ran through my mind that she had made a freak out of me. Pushing her aside, I ran into the bathroom and washed my face thoroughly. I stuck my head under the spigot in the bathtub and rinsed my mouth out. I could hear Fatima standing in the doorway laughing. The more water that ran over my head, the clearer my mind became. As I stood up, I faked a drunk stagger. She laughed again and came forward to help. I hit her with a straight right to the head, causing her to tumble all the way back into the bedroom. I followed her quickly, but instead of finding an unconscious woman, I ran straight into a wildcat. Her naked body gleamed in the dim light as she met me in the middle of the room, snarling like an animal and clawing like a cat. I shot hook after hook to her head. She was bleeding from nose and mouth, and for a moment, I had doubts about being able to whip this grown woman. She got a grip on my hair and dug her claws into my cheek. I could feel the pain as she raked the side of my face. Remembering that the best way to stop a woman was to hit her in the stomach, I shot a left and right to her gut. She folded up like a bag. I put one on her exposed chin. She exploded against the wall. Most of the fight was out of her as she sank to the floor, but I had no intention of quitting now. I walked over to the closet and removed a coat hanger. As I twisted the wire together, her eyes followed me the way a hurt animal watches his killer. She began to whimper as I picked up a pillowcase and wrapped it around my hand so the wire couldn't cut me. Her screams seemed to shake the walls as I laid into her. I continued beating her until I was exhausted. I sat on the edge of the bed, resting, as I watched her crawl across the floor towards me. She began to kiss my feet, passionately, with whimpers of pleasure escaping from her with each caress. When she kissed her way up to my knee, I kicked her in the head, knocking her back to the floor. I knelt down across her body and slapped her across the face. Then I started to ravish her savagely. She dug her nails into my back, while her screams shattered the silence, but I was deaf to her cries, and continued to rape her.